Let's make a deal. Florida lawmakers finally agree on how to spend $83 billion of your tax money. There are some surprises. We'll talk about it with two lawmakers.
Back up!
Backlash on the beach. Accusations of discrimination enter the debate over how to handle crowds and crime over holiday weekends.
Don't call the section's affairs office an embassy. Don't call the person in charge of it the ambassador. Those are easy to do.
Revising U.S.-Cuba policy, President Trump is going to come to Miami this week to unveil a much tougher stand toward Cuba. We will take that to the roundtable.
Good morning. Great to be with you today. And we begin today with the Grand Compromise. State lawmakers had 3 days of special session to do it.
In fact, they made several compromises to finish their special session. They made deals on everything from money for the state's tourism agency, Visit Florida, and for a successor to Enterprise Florida. Lawmakers also agreed on a medical marijuana bill. The most controversial legislation gloms together all kinds of education policy directives and includes $140 million for charter schools. This comes as end-of-school test scores show much improvement at most South Florida schools, including some schools deemed to be failing.
A lot to talk about with our guest today. Carlos Trujillo is a state representative from Miami and part of the GOP leadership in the State House. He is the chair of the House Appropriations Committee. State Senator Gary Farmer represents Fort Lauderdale in the Senate, District 34. As a matter of fact, he is a Democrat serving his first term in Tallahassee. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you both come in.
Nice to be here.
Representative Trujillo, it looked to us, Glenn and me, and most of the media, most of the state, that you and Senator Farmer and other lawmakers went to Tallahassee on Wednesday in disarray, not agreeing on anything, and then voila, Friday afternoon, you, the governor, and House Speaker Richard Corcoran come out and say, hey, we've agreed on all these big issues. How did you do it?
So I think it's important to note that the House was always in agreement. I think the governor was always in agreement. It seems like the Senate and some of their leadership may not have been in agreement with some of the terms and conditions they had discussed. So there was really 3 issues on the table, and one of them was whether we put an additional $200 million into K through 12, which is called the FEFP funding.
Right, and you agreed to put $215 million into that funding.
Into that funding. The second issue was putting an additional roughly $50 million into Visit Florida, along with some economic incentive programs. And the last was we actually put $50 million to shore up the dike around Lake Okeechobee. So if you look at those numbers, it comes out to $416 million, which is exactly the amount of money the governor vetoed. So we'd used no money from reserves, we just took money from vetoes in order to reallocate it to those priorities.
Okay.
You know, with all that went on in the 3 days, Senator Farmer, I think what got the biggest play in the news was what everyone is calling House Bill 7069. It's that mammoth education bill. And I think for weeks we've heard superintendents all around the state, public school advocates all around the state, lobbying for a veto instead of a passage, which it looks like this is what's done in special session. And they're framing it as taking money from public schools, giving to charter schools. The House and the Senate were not very simpatico on this bill. What happened in session to birth this, what has come out of this bill?
Well, that's a great question, Glenn, and I don't know if we'll ever know the nature of the conception of that bill when you talk about its birth, but we do know that it is a terrible attack on the funding of public schools. And Carlos mentioned the 3 issues that were the compromise, the grand compromise, but looming over all of that was 7069. And, you know, what was so offensive to myself and others, and many Republicans in the Senate as well, that bill passed by 1 vote. On a heated vote on that extra day of session after it had only been released, you know, 8:30 at night on the Friday beforehand. So not a lot of time to review it. 55 different bills put into it, many of which had been defeated in committee, many of which couldn't get heard in committee because they didn't have the votes. But the frank matter is we are woefully inadequate in our funding for public schools before 7069. this $140 million for charter schools, why hasn't that been given to the traditional public schools first? If they then fail, after they have all these resources that are being given to these charters in 7069, then maybe we can look at a shift of how we're doing public education.
Well, Representative, in fact, referring to what the senator just said, Richard Corcoran, the House Speaker, your colleague, you're part of the GOP leadership, was here a couple of weeks ago, and he says demonstrably the public schools have, in some instances, failed these kids, and they go to failed schools, failing schools, and that's why he said he wanted $140 million for the charter schools. You support that?
Absolutely, and I think they've failed not only the kids, I think they failed the entire communities. When you run to communities, it's not a coincidence that F schools are in communities that are economically depressed.
Right.
I think
a lot of minority communities.
There's a direct correlation, and I think when you start looking at it, the big fight here is not about the children. And I think that's what we have to refocus the debate on. The fight here is about money. The superintendents and the school boards and the unions want the money. If the children continue to fail, that's their problem. I think we really have to reanalyze our perspective. My child goes to a charter school, which is a public school. I think we keep saying these are non-public schools. They're public schools. I don't pay any tuition. It's a public school that any child that wants to go to. Right. My child's school overperforms to your traditional public school 40 points in math and reading. Wouldn't we want that for every single child that lives in any community in Dade County?
I think it's important to point out that you were on the board of Florida Charter School Alliance. You were a big proponent of charter schools.
I'm not on the board of Florida Charter School Alliance.
You were, though, right?
Never.
2012?
Never.
You didn't sit on that board. It's
Never.
on your resume?
No, not on mine.
Okay, well, if I misspoke, then apologies. It's on the resume. We'll review that. Yeah. But you are a proponent of charter schools, is the point.
Yes.
And that is a philosophical divide, public charters. And although it's a public school, it's owned by in some nonprofit and some for-profit corporate entities. And so in some cases, it's a business. And so taking nothing away from good, bad, evil, not evil, there is this absolute philosophical divide between charter public schools and public schools. And most of the budget in Dade County, and I'm guessing other counties around the state, at least half the budget of public schools come from property taxes. The state allocation is half or less. Isn't this the state providing not a lot of funding, but dictating rules about what local districts do with this money?
I would disagree with back to the premise of not providing enough funding. We have provided through this, especially after special session, more money to public education than we ever have. Charter schools receive on average $1,500 less per student, and they don't receive any construction money. How are they able to do with $1,500 less per student and no construction money have better outcomes than their neighboring public schools?
Well,
Senator?
And actually that's not entirely accurate. Year after year, the charter schools go to the general revenue budget and they get PICO dollars allocated to them. So they're getting construction money. Under 7069, they would get millage rate money. They would get private, for-profit or not-for-profit entities could come in, get the money to buy the land, get the money to build the school. And then if and when that school fails, because charter schools fail at an alarming rate, Carlos is maybe doing well, others do not do so well. When that school fails, those private companies keep that money. There's no reverter under 7069.
There's also bond money in Broward and Dade.
Absolutely. In Broward County alone, we have, because of the starvation budget we've been put on, because of the millage that was taken away that you alluded to, of the $257 million every year that we generate in millage, we have to spend $150 million on debt service. But I want to say, too, to Carlos's point, it's about the children. It really is about the children. And these failures, these failing schools that keep getting referred to, particularly by the Speaker in the House, we have created that self-fulfilling prophecy. We have put these public schools on a starvation budget. We are almost $4,000 below the national average on per student funding. That's the national average. We're the third largest gross domestic product in the country. We should be well above the national average in the funding of our children.
At roughly $7,300 now per student, but as the senator says, the national average is $10,000 or so per student.
Can I ask a quick question before we change subjects? I want to ask a question I asked the House Speaker Richard Corcoran last week. Carlos Trujillo, might the public school system, the whole system that runs as a public school in this state, might that be an obsolete system?
I think not the entire public school system might be obsolete. I think there's always, in any great society, there's obviously a need for public education. I think the bureaucracy, the true top-down system in which you said it gets $7,300 per student. So in kindergarten classrooms, they're generating $140,000 per classroom. They pay their teacher $50,000. maybe 55, maybe 60. What happens to the rest of the money?
Are you looking to have just a systematic change eventually?
I think the best system is a system that puts the children and the parents in control of their own education. And I believe the best system would be give the parents a voucher and let the free market decide. And the parents could say it's not public or private or anything else. The parents could run and say, you know what, I know what's in the best interest of my child. And I'm going to go to every single school that I believe it's best serving my child, and I have my voucher, and I'm in complete control of their education. Not some administrator, not some bureaucrat, not some politician.
Well, and the downside of that is we do need administrators. We do need some bureaucracy to oversee a system like this. Listen, in a civilized society, we have fundamental obligations. Provide, police, fire, healthcare, education. We have to educate our children. We have that obligation. The voucher system, let's call it what it is. It's a desire to privatize public education. 7069 is designed to jumpstart the total privatization of public education. That's not a good idea. Look what's happened to our prison system since we privatized it. It's become a mess. When you put the profit motive into a social obligation that communities have, it turns things upside down. And that's the problem I have.
7069 is on Governor Scott's desk, and it appears, I think, he is going to sign it. And frankly, it appears the reason he's going to sign it is because House Speaker Richard Corcoran and the GOP leadership gave him what he wanted with both Visit Florida and Enterprise Florida, which was badly run. It was giving money. Richard Corcoran famously called it corporate welfare. And now you've given the governor $85 million for something called the Infrastructure and Workforce Development Grant Program, which basically gives him free rein to spend $85 million wherever he wants, including places where he would like some votes when he runs for the Senate.
Well, I think there's a big difference between giving money to Coca-Cola or Walmart or Target to come in and build a center that was going to go there anyway. I think what we're doing now is saying we're spending money on training a workforce or on true infrastructure that benefits the entire community. So if there needs to be a water pump out station in order for them to add 1 million square feet of warehouse space, that's a government priority. If there needs to be an off-ramp on I-4 or on I-75 or on the Turnpike in order for the facility.
This is solely at the discretion of the governor. He can say, all right, they need that pump, they need that off-ramp, and let's build one there. He's got $85 million to do it.
I believe some of the projects over a certain amount, and don't quote me on the amount, has to come back to what's called the Legislative Budgeting Conference, and then it's appropriated by the...
Senator?
Well, no, and Michael, I want to focus more on the trade aspect that you just described. This okay, what am I getting mentality that we thought. That's the most disappointing thing to me of what just happened with this general
Senator Farmer, hold that thought. We're going to take a brief break. We'll come back and you can continue it. Stay with us. Welcome back. Live in our studio on this Sunday morning, State Representative Carlos Trujillo of Miami, State Senator Gary Farmer of Fort Lauderdale. And Senator, you were going to talk about this sort of horse trading that went on to give the governor this $85 million, some would say slush fund. He wouldn't say that. What would you call it?
Well, Michael, and as you mentioned earlier, I'm a first-time elected official, so this is my first time being in the process inside with the budget. I'd been involved in Tallahassee for a long time. I'm not that naive that I don't understand that a lot of what happens is about trading. But in this case, with such diametrically opposed views on so many issues, and to see it all come together quickly, the theme was, without a doubt, what's in it for me? For the governor, for the speaker, for the Senate president, what's in it for me? That's, the deal at the airport. Then perhaps the Senate was looking, wait a minute, what did we get out of this? What was very disappointing to me is historically, the Senate has been the body, the moderate, the deliberative body, that would oftentimes forego its goals, its preferences, its top priorities for the betterment of the state, for the greater good of the state. And in this case, I sort of feel like the Senate let the state down. We should have given up our priorities, and we should have killed 7069. We came one vote short. I know of 3 Republicans who voted for that bill because they were assured the governor was going to veto it. They were manipulated into voting for that bill. They've got buyer's remorse.
Can I just bring it back to Michael's point, to this economic growth fund that we were talking about, which in essence, replaces Enterprise Florida that the House Speaker called corporate welfare. And now this fund is, in essence, supposed to be a business incentive fund. I can think of one industry, the film industry, that has been decimated because there is no incentive in the state to bring it here. Is that not an important component of a budget, is incentive money for leadership to go out and entice companies to move to the state?
Listen, all states want vibrant economic growth. And yes, there need to be some tools available to entice businesses. But if Enterprise Florida was corporate welfare, this is corporate welfare on steroids.
Why? How?
There are no meaningful checks and balances. Michael mentioned it, $85 million for the governor to spend pretty much however he wants to spend it. And I think there's an important distinction between Enterprise Florida and Visit Florida. They kept getting lumped together.
Yeah.
Visit Florida is singularly focused on our tourism industry.
And they've been successful.
Yes.
And they've been successful. Enterprise Florida has had some successes and has some abject failures.
Right. They had given money to corporations that hadn't created the jobs and then didn't go back to capture the money that they had invested. You know, before we run out of time, and forgive me for jumping here, but we need to talk about medical marijuana. The legislature finally, it looked like it wasn't even going to be on the agenda, but indeed you figured out a solution. Representative, talk about how, are you satisfied with the bill that was passed?
You know, I'm not. And talk about deals. Now we have to give some to black farmers and minority-owned farmers and citrus
growers' licenses.
Yeah. So you know, it's all these deals in order to get votes. I think that's unfortunately the way politics works. But I think overall, I just think on all these marijuana issues, if it's truly medication, it's truly medicine, go buy it at a CVS, go buy it at a Walgreens, just like you buy every other medication.
Nobody's going to be able to do that. I want to put up on the screen so that our viewers at home understand a little bit about what the lawmakers did. There are going to be 10 new growers licensed in the state. That brings to 17 the total number. And each of these growers can have up to 25 dispensaries. You can only, of course, get this from a doctor who has to have special training to write a script. And then if you qualify because you have the eligible medical conditions, then you get up to a 70-day supply. Those are sort of some of the basics. Senator, do you think this is what the voters asked for?
Absolutely not.
And no smoking.
And no smoking. First of all, it is unconstitutional. This law will be challenged and it will be struck down as not complying with the will of the voters. Well, primarily, for one, it doesn't allow smoking.
Right.
The language of the ballot specifically said excludes smoking in public. There's no other interpretation that by implication you can smoke in private, just not in public. It's easier to get addictive OxyContin than it will be to get marijuana under this legislation. We failed the will of the voters in implementing this legislation. We need more. We need open growth. The cartel that was set up. It's now a system where a blessed group, a group blessed by the Tallahassee legislature, has to get it under terms only blessed by us. Not the will of the voters at all.
And a profitable. It's going to be a money-making proposition as well. And it is not, shall we say, just for the record, recreational marijuana. This is just for medical marijuana. Well, gentlemen, we are out of time. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
And we look forward to see whether you're going to be appointed an ambassador by President Trump. We know he is thinking about you. We'll find out this week. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having us.
As Miami Beach considers how to quell holiday weekend crime and crowds, there are accusations of racism, and we want to have that conversation with one of South Florida's NAACP leaders who will be with us right here next. You were with us right this time and right here last week. A heated discussion about proposed changes to the party scene on South Beach brought some strong and varied reactions.
Boy, did it ever. There was support for police and code enforcement to control some unruly crowds and concerns about serving liquor late at night on Ocean Drive. The mayor wants to set up a 2 a.m. curfew year-round, but some critics saw that as racial discrimination and efforts to quell the crowds and crime. Miami Beach City leaders insist the focus is on ensuring public safety and enforcing the laws equally. But some say they are focusing too much on Memorial Day weekend, which draws large crowds for what has come to be known as Urban Beach Week, and most of those visitors are black. The leadership of the Miami chapter of the NAACP sent an email voicing concerns to the mayor of Miami Beach.
The vice president of the Miami chapter of the NAACP is Reuben Roberts, who is with us today to talk about all of those concerns. Such an important conversation. Thank you so much for coming in, giving up a little Sunday for us.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
So what is the principal concern here about what has been proposed for Miami Beach and the way that African Americans are treated?
Well, our primary concern is not so much what Mayor Levine is proposing, but the statements that were made by Commissioner Greco and by Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez. And so Commissioner Greco mentioned that they want to ban Beach Week, Urban Beach Week altogether.
Right.
Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez said to give the officers back their bullets and to take off the body cameras.
For the record, and she has apologized for that.
Yeah, but those statements, some things when you come out and when you take those statements, you can't really pull them back. You have to understand the history of Miami Beach. My mother had to have an ID to go to work on Miami Beach. So when you make these racially insensitive statements, they have a huge impact on the community. The NAACP is about creating a unified Miami. And what we want to do is find out how we can work with the commissioners and the mayor to find a way to make this an officially sanctioned event on Miami Beach. This is not like any other event that's happening on Miami Beach.
Do you know what I thought was most fascinating about our conversation last week and the reaction to it? And very positive reaction from some, and there were significant number of people who, and we did not talk about race last week, and there are people who absolutely have the overarching perception that it's all about race, and those who, you know, furrowed their eyebrows and said, wait, that we didn't talk about skin color, we talked about crime. How important is this conversation that we are all on the same page, perceiving the same information?
Well, let's say this. The mere fact that you call it Urban Beach Week, you're talking about race. All right?
Well, that's what, well, urban is a city, beach is the city.
Yes, but when you hear words like ethnic, urban, certain images come to mind, right? And so maybe not for you, Glenna, but for a lot of folks.
That's what I mean. We all need to be on that same page and understand.
Right.
Yes.
So when we say those things, and this particular weekend in particular is identified as the problematic weekend, when they had shootings at the spring break event where a guy got shot in the chest. You don't see the commissioners coming out making those statements, but for the last 5 years, they've been, or even longer, these things have been coming up about Urban Beach Week.
So,
and excuse me, when Mayor Levine was here last week, he said, look, I'm talking about behavior all year round. We're not looking just at the week where mostly black visitors come, most of whom just want to have a good time like everybody else and obey the law. But it was Commissioner Michael Greco who, in fact, was, I guess, at some point in the discussion, maybe at that meeting on Wednesday, the Miami Beach Commission, where he talked about getting rid of Urban Beach Week. But since there is no organizer and the city doesn't sanction the event, you can't really get rid of it.
Right. How can you bar a people from coming to the beach? I mean, again, early on and historically, they were able to do that because of the laws in effect. But everyone has right to access to Miami Beach or anyone else. We have civil rights laws. Right. As I said earlier, I commend Mayor Levine, and I also commend Chief Oates for the fact that if you look at the number of rates of arrest and incidents, they have increasingly gone down. Chief Oates instituted a policy where you cannot shoot at a car when it's fleeing. And I think it was in 2011 when they shot over 100 rounds into a car and hit 4 innocent people that were there. Are those the bullets that Rosen wants to give back to the officers? So we want to make sure that we don't make this about a particular group. We all, the NAACP, Miami-Dade branch of the NAACP, wants our guests that comes to visit Miami Beach and the residents to be in a safe environment. And that's the major issue. It's not about, it shouldn't be about race, it shouldn't be about those things, but it happens to be so because of the way that it's targeted.
Can we put up a little piece of the letter that you and others in your chapter wrote to the Miami Beach mayor this week? This was a particular paragraph that jumped out at me. It would have been so encouraging to instead hear local officials use this event as a springboard for dialogue regarding any number of deep undercurrent issues such as gun violence, illegal access to guns, if such was applicable. And that, I think, and it ends with that would have been the courage of real leadership. And I think what's so interesting about that dialogue is there are other issues on the beach besides Urban Beach Week. Floatopia was one of the events that was banned or wanted to be banned. So what is your advice for law enforcement leadership as a whole to deal with what is an issue, crime, crowds, without making a perception of targeting any one group of people?
Well,
how do you do that?
What we've done in our letter, we've also extended an invitation to the mayor and the commissioners for us to meet the NAACP, the Miami-Dade branch of the NAACP, to meet with them. We'd also like some of our partners to meet as well to talk about some of the solutions that we can have to this problem, this perceivable problem, and make sure that maybe if we had a sanctioned event, when you come over for the wine and food festival, you see the flags up. You see all of the schedule for the different events.
Instead of a sign on the Julia Tuttle Causeway that says we are checking license plate readers and not exactly a welcome to people.
Exactly. Exactly. So if we can find a way to make this more of a sanctioned event and make it more welcoming to the people that are there. Listen, you have over 20,000 people that come. You had two major incidents that happened. You can't paint those 20,000 with the same brush that you paint those two with.
Well, maybe we start right here, right now.
I agree.
Maybe this is the springboard.
I agree.
All right, Mr.
Great
Roberts,
to have you
we're
here.
so
Thanks
glad
so
you
much.
came in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much.
All right. Up next, we're going to discuss all the big topics with the Roundtable. Stay with us. All right, another very busy week in the news, and that, of course, means we have so much to take up with our Powerhouse Roundtable.
And a great lineup for you today. Introductions first. Justin Safey is publisher of the Safey Review, a daily roundup of political news and opinion from around the state. He is also an attorney in Miami. Veteran journalist Rosemary O'Hara, editor of the editorial page editor at the Sun Sentinel. That's the right title. And we welcome to the roundtable Eric Knowles, president and CEO of the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce. Welcome. So glad you can join us this morning.
Glad to be here.
Welcome back.
We're glad
Thank
you're
you.
all here. All right, so Justin, you are a veteran of Tallahassee. You served Governor Jeb Bush, communications director, still spent time there. How did the lawmakers do? Did they finally come up with workable, reasonable solutions?
Well, as the earlier segment showed, there was a lot of horse trading going on. This was very unusual. I think in the last 15 years, I can't remember them coming back a month later to do a special session where there was this much horse trading between the governor, the speaker, and each one of them, as was referenced earlier by Senator Farmer, each of the legislative leaders and the governor had something that they wanted.
Right.
And at the end of the day, they resulted in a deal that many people would be happy, but I think that still the issue that a lot of people have a problem with, especially the school boards and the superintendents, is this issue of this bill you mentioned,
$140 million for charter schools.
Correct.
Yeah. And Rosemary, you're shaking your head.
Well, you know, how did they do? They started the year saying that how they worked was going to be the most transparent in history, how they ended up getting this done. I mean, in the end, House Speaker Richard Corcoran really was the force in the room, and the Florida Senate did not have the impact that it should have. It's frustrating to me. In the end, we're doing better by giving more money to public schools, but in that House Bill 7069, they will take money away from public schools in order to give it to for-profit charter schools for construction.
Right.
I love being devil's advocate on that. What's wrong with that? I mean, is there a chance that this charter school experiment will be good for education?
Well, let us hope. But why, if charter schools are offer innovative, why do we have to pay them even more money to go into poor neighborhoods? It's because right now they don't go into these zip codes that are where these troubled schools are. They're cherry picking the best students at other, and so what's wrong is that the public is paying public money for land and buildings that we won't own.
Right.
Eric Knowles, I know you're being so polite. You're a first timer on the roundtable. Jump right in.
Well, you know, we talk about charter schools and we talk about whether they're nonprofit or they're for-profit. The reality, at the end of the day, they go into this business to make money.
Right.
And we don't do a great job.
Even the nonprofits?
Even the nonprofits. I mean, someone is making money.
And most of them are for-profit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Salaries, the principal's being paid, the director is being paid, people are being paid. So there is a profit being made.
The argument, of course, that I hear some very, I think, respected African-American leaders make is we want the same choice for our children that upper middle class, you know, white parents have, and if we want to send them to a better school, we want to do so.
Absolutely. Anybody, I think, anyone should have that right to be able to send their kids to whatever school they want to. But when it comes to public schools, everybody can't do that.
Right.
So we have to make sure that public schools have the same availability of learning and opportunities for the children that are going to public schools.
You know, as a business person, you run the chamber.
Correct.
As a business person, we talked a lot about this this growth fund, economic growth fund, that was kind of horse traded for the demise of Enterprise Florida. Yeah.
When listening today and you talk about the $85 million and the fact that the governor now has, I guess, a slush fund that he can use when he wants to use it.
That's what the Democrats call it.
That's what they call it.
That's not what Justin's going to call it.
I might. Give me a chance.
So you're talking about jobs, you're talking about creating, whether they're building bridges, et cetera. Florida, we talk about Enterprise Florida, we talk about Visit Florida. We know we are a tourism-based community throughout the state. And I want to give kudos to my good friend Bill Talbert and Gene Prescott for what they did in their leadership and making sure that they brought the money back for tourism.
An avid watcher of This Week in South Florida.
Absolutely. But when it comes to business, our Beacon Council here in South Florida, in Miami, how we fight to make sure that we bring business here, how do we keep the businesses here, is very important.
Yeah, but Rosemary, I really think the sticking point, Justin, jump in a minute too, the sticking point is that there seems to be little oversight for how the governor disposes of $85 million for infrastructure projects. I mean, who is he answerable to?
The answer that the legislators gave us was that he's answerable to the voters, and if he misspends the pot of money, you know, of course he's term limited. Yeah. The issue is
I'm sorry, I don't want to imply for a second that he would misspend it, but he is going to run for the U.S. Senate next year, and he's going to spend a lot of that money in places that will redound in his favor as a candidate.
And how it's been described that this money will be spent is for roads and mostly roads and, you know, bridges kind of stuff, and then workforce training. Right now, Florida invests in roads and bridges through our Florida Department of Transportation. Right. They have a very disciplined 5-year plan that every city and county is trying to get into the plan. Now, and there's a process. Now suddenly, how is he going to give this away? And on the workforce training, the other dedicated part of this money, our state colleges provide workforce training, especially to targeted industries, and yet this legislature cut our state colleges by $30 million. You know,
although the Senate tried to override that veto.
So Justin,
well, the university.
Jump in, weigh in here on this.
So, you know, look, this is a debate that's going on since I worked for Governor Bush, 15 years ago. This whole issue of do you have to provide incentives to companies to stay here and to come here? My view is, in the state of Florida, we are so attractive as a state. We have a great climate. We have a great tax environment. Exactly. That businesses, we should be able to compete just on the base of our work environment and our climate and our business environment that we have. But look, there's always going to be the argument, and especially if you go to the panhandle of the state, they're competing against Mississippi, they're competing against Georgia, they're competing against Alabama, and in that part of the state, if there are no economic incentives, those states are giving, South Carolina, they're giving economic incentives to these companies. So there's a balance that needs to be reached. The most important thing is accountability. There needs to be accountability. And because this issue is so high profile, I don't think that any member of the press, I don't think the members of the public, we're going to be watching what the governor does with that $85 million. And if he spends it on a company that takes the money and runs and doesn't produce the jobs, he's going to be held accountable to that if he decides he wants to run for the U.S. Senate. So we have to hold him accountable.
Enterprise Florida money, was that spent appropriately to you?
To me, there were a number of instances where the Visit Florida money, and it was well reported, there was spending on an Emerald Lagasse cooking show, millions of dollars for that, millions of dollars for a fishing TV show. That was Visit Florida. I question those. On Enterprise Florida, as was referenced earlier, there have been instances, Michael references, where funds have gone to companies that were required to create a certain number of jobs. They did not create those jobs, so it has not always worked, but it does work sometimes.
Quick break.
I would say
quick break. We got to take a commercial break. You get first word when we come back. All right, stay with us.
Welcome back on the Sunday Morning Live in our studio, a powerhouse roundtable. And Eric Knowles, you were about ready to make a comment.
What I wanted to say to Justin is how quickly we forget. You're saying that the governor will be running for senator, but we forget. By that time, he would have spent the $85 million, and we're screwed as a community.
Unless he spends it well.
Unless he spends it well, and that's what we hope he does.
We will be watching carefully. All right, let's move on, if we can, to the topic of medical marijuana, which it appeared they might not take up at all, and the State Department of Health may have been writing the regulations. Thankfully, they did not. And Rosemary, your page had, I thought, an excellent editorial and recommendations. Among them, let's have 25 dispensaries per licensed grower. Guess what?
Right.
They said 25. Good going.
Well done. Thank you. You know, in the end, they weren't that far apart during the regular session. But there's all this talk about a free market, you know, and in the end, it's not a free market. When you're talking about a drug like marijuana, which has the same effect as alcohol or cigarettes, you got to have some regulation of it. Really the fight is about money, as it always is, and how many storefronts, dispensaries, could each licensee open. So it was really about the business behind it in the end, rather than about the patients. And so we are about to see a needless lawsuit on the issue of smoking, when it's clear that smoking is referenced in the amendment. So why?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is going to be a big new industry in the state of Florida. We have 7 licenses already as a result of a law that passed a couple years ago. And, you know, these licenses are basically licensed to print money for whoever gets them. And the legislature is the one that determines how these licenses are going to be granted. So anytime there's that much money at stake, you're going to see this kind of restrictions on the marketplace.
And one thing that what was said earlier, you had Representative Trujillo on, and, you know, it really hits me in a way when he responded and said, and we have to add a black farmer.
Yeah.
We have to add, and that's very, to me, a derogatory statement. And we talked about how do we get to these conversations, but it's when something is put in those contexts, and it may be out of context, but that's the way it's, to me, that it's taken, that, okay, well, you know, we're going to give a black farmer an opportunity.
And one of the things he didn't say, and to the point of whether this is a free market, is that 2 of those licenses are going to go to people who had citrus packing companies. Now, is that picking winners and losers?
That was added at the very last moment before the bill passed.
You know, I have to say, one of my favorite little, it's not that important, is that the law apparently says municipalities may outlaw a dispensary within their limits. On the other hand, they can't stop deliveries. So I guess UPS and FedEx, United States Parcel Service, are going to be sending, you know, the connection for people who have a prescription.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
You know, before we let time get away, I thought our NAACP discussion with Mr. Roberts here was I thought, a start of a very important conversation that our community rarely goes public with.
Well,
and I know you were very involved in that
It's
topic.
an important conversation. I mean, what Mayor Levine has said.
Just to frame the perception for anyone who might not have been watching, the perception of race in law enforcement, the perception of leadership dictating rules that some people perceive as discrimination.
Right. Again, what Commissioner Greco, who is a friend, I consider him a friend, he made a comment probably out of haste that he shouldn't have made, saying that Urban Beach Weekend will no longer happen. And the other commissioner that made the comments about cameras and bullets, obviously that was not a statement, and I understand she apologized. I do say that Commissioner Greco probably needs to apologize if he hasn't. But also, as Ruben said, you know, there's a history behind Miami Beach when there were signs that said, no blacks, no dogs. And so we are very, as a community, we're very sensitive to these issues. And so, as the mayor said, you know, it's all of throughout the year that we're concerned about making sure that the beach is safe for everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, last week we spoke about the context of spring break in Fort Lauderdale, you know, your territory.
Right.
And there was a concerted effort to change spring break's atmosphere.
Yes.
That worked.
It did, although we had a good number of young people back this year. To me, the part of the question is, should bars stop serving alcohol at 2 o'clock? And in my personal opinion, I think nothing good happens after 2 o'clock, you know? But that's my personal opinion, you know? In
So
Miami,
you're not a partier all night.
well, you know,
let's go down there at 3 a.m. We'll check it out.
But that's only on
Miami.
Ocean Drive.
Yeah, and it's only outside on Ocean Drive. They can, you know, people can go inside from the sidewalk, from the tables, go into the bar and still have a drink until 5 o'clock.
Yeah, it's true, and I've traveled around the country, and it's pretty remarkable. Cities like Los Angeles, other cities like New York, liquor sales stop, period, at 2 a.m. So, you know, Miami Beach, we're a little bit unique, I think, that we allow liquor sales till 5, period.
So does Fort Lauderdale and Boca. So this 2 o'clock issue is one that's worth having, but should, you know,
Well,
personal...
they're putting it before the voters.
All right, we are out of time. That's going to be the final word. Eric, thank you for coming. We'll have
Thanks
you
so
back
much,
soon.
everybody.
Rosemary, Justin, great.
Good to be here.
Good to be here. Thank you.
David Beckham wants soccer in Miami. Police want to protect and serve. And politicians, well, they're fouling up that game for both. That's next.